So let's talk about characterization. The definition of characterization is how the author tells the reader about a character. Are you a new fiction writer? You should plan to make this your specialty. Your central character is the one who has the most interesting conflict, the most interesting challenge or problem. I'm going to use the term protagonist. Protagonist, a term you've probably heard before. I know that some books have more than one important character like this. It's easier for me to start the explanation talking about a work that has just one. In a conventional fiction, the character must attempt to deal with the conflict. Character must attempt to reach a more comfortable place in life with some things settled or resolved. You want your character to be one who's proactive and who takes actions. The action doesn't have to be physical action like running and jumping or fighting. It can also be things like traveling, conversation, researching, planning, or just thinking about the problem. But in every scene the character is in, try to think of some way the character can address the conflict, even if the scene is about something else, like relationships with other characters. Just keep the conflict live and in mind. Character is a mixture of numerous character traits, or personality traits. These are elements of the character's behavior, along with their preferences and their history. Characters with active traits who like to do things are always more interesting to write and more interesting to read about. Characters can't be always right, they can't be always good, or they aren't believable. But of course, if they're always wrong or they're always bad, then they're not likable. So a typical type of character that works is one who has a good moral center, who's mostly likable, who embodies relatable values, but who can sometimes screw up. So if you follow some standard plot outline systems, like Blake Snyder's Save the Cat, then the character inevitably moves into a period of feeling lost and defeated. Oh no, what should we do? Woe is me, woe is me. And then gets the kind of reversal. Think it through, perk up, makes a plan, let's go do this! Well, I gotta say that this formula has started to become annoying to some movie audiences, so I don't really like a very rigid formula. But I do agree that your character should have ups and downs, should have minor wins, minor losses, and major wins. That is our overall goal. In the rising action of the story, which is the technical term for how the character continually tries to solve the problems to overcome the conflicts, you have those small successes, small failures, and also some big ones. Side point though, while random events can influence the plot, you should most likely make sure that the major moments in the story are the direct result of your main character's action, as well as the actions of the imposing force, such as the antagonist, or a threat in the natural world. I recommend that characters' personality traits be varied, and include some elements that aren't directly plot related. This makes a character feel more human. It can't be a formula for every character to do this, but you can certainly kind of seed in some contradictions in your important people. By this I mean the character has some behaviors or motivations that don't fit the main thrust of the character's personality. These can break the stereotypes and give you an opportunity to consider what makes this person different from others in the same vein. Why does this elite soldier go on weekends to do flower arranging? Why is the youngest daughter of two striving parents so much of a slacker? Why does this elf like to go join the dwarves and swing a pick in the mine? The central character, again, is called the protagonist. The character that your protagonist struggles against is an antagonist. Antagonists are not always villains, but all villains are antagonists. You can have an antagonist, in other words, who also has good intentions, and the struggle is between your protagonist and another person who both mean well. So that's why. If you have a second lead character, that character is called the deuteragonist. This character is not quite the protagonist, but is also very important and has her own character arc. There are subcategories of characters called anti-heroes and anti-villains. An anti-hero is a character who's in the heroic role but doesn't have a heroic personality, being somehow dark or compromised. The anti-hero could be selfish or self-destructive or cruel, but somehow will rise to the occasion and meanwhile remains entertaining to read about. Anti-hero. Anti-villain is a character who's basically a villain, has a villainous personality, has bad goals, but whose behavior is like a heroic person's. It's a little more complicated, but let's say an anti-hero is a villainous hero who is either the protagonist or the deuteragonist. An anti-villain is a heroic villain who occupies the antagonist's role. Anti-villain. Characters fall into three categories: round, flat, and stock. Round characters have a certain number of character traits that makes them more complex, makes them more interesting. Sometimes these are contradictory, like I mentioned before. But round characters should have enough traits, enough varied behaviors and so on to make them interesting and to give the potential for them to have different types of interactions with other characters and situations. A flat character has one primary character trait, one personality trait that is important and that defines that character. And then you can mix in an occasional other, like a weird quirk or something like that, to go with it. And flat characters can often be very, very interesting, but they are not protagonists because they aren't round. And then a stock character is someone who's doing the job. It's like if the protagonist and another supporting character are talking in the supermarket line, the supermarket checker says $12.95 is the stock character, or the police that you see putting their guns on the end when the supervillain comes out of the bank. Those are stock characters. So occasionally you can give a stock character a funny line, but they aren't fully developed characters. So this is the mixture. So obviously you want to make your protagonist a round character, your deuteragonist a round character if there is one, and most supporting characters should be round. Although some of them can be flat characters who just are very important and very interesting. So how does characterization work? There are a lot of different things you could use, and I recommend you use almost all of them. First, of course, there's appearance, including body shape and body type, fitness, hair, eye, and skin color, clothing, and grooming. I'd also include things that are the character's major possessions, like homes, vehicles, mounts, distinctive equipment. These all go into the appearance category. Next is dialogue. How the character speaks, what are the character's interactions with others. This really reveals who the person is. Dialogue is an art that some new writers struggle with, and it's my specialty, so you can expect me to devote many videos to it. You can also check out my book, How to Write Dialogue by Matt Posner, which is available exclusively at Amazon. Third thing, there's actions. This ranges from how the character performs routine tasks to how the character handles challenges and confrontations. Though, if you put multiple characters in the same situation, each of them will deal with it a little bit differently. And these actions reveal character. So even if you're trying to figure out how different characters are, you can just say, what would happen to each of them if the mother shows up angry at their work? That's the kind of thing you can do to figure out action and how actions reveal your character's differences and reveals their inner workings. Next is what you say about the character. This is called direct characterization. If you have an omniscient narrator, you may choose to tell the reader things about the character's identity and personality. This was especially common in the 19th century novel, that's the 1800s. In the last few decades, direct characterization has been rejected as a technique, and we get the others, which are called indirect characterization, because there's a philosophy called show, don't tell. And I'm going to talk about show, don't tell in a different video, but just to make the point, direct characterization does still work provided that you have enough scenes which later do show the character behaving like that to reinforce the claim that you made. So a direct characterization could be a starting point which gives the reader a basis for understanding the character's behavior until you have enough scenes with that character in action. And finally, last one is what other characters say about the character. Notice your other characters don't have to tell the truth or even they try to be objective. So while they may give some genuine background details, or cogent personality commentary, they may also reveal the person's character by being obviously wrong or obviously unfairly critical. This is the end of what I want us to talk about in today's video. In the comments below, please post some questions you have about your characters or characterization in general. I'll try to answer them in future videos. Thanks for watching, and let's go write some characters.